Hello out there, and taking a quick look today at a new knife from drop.com that is produced by we and designed by Gareth. This one is called the Miura, and the pre-order is going on right now. As of the filming of this video, I think there are 22 days left in that pre-order. It is expected to ship in February of 2021. And yeah, it is a knife that I'm fortunate enough to get my hands on early just through the pass around group that I'm in, the Apex pass around group. So thank you to them, and thank you to the people at Drop for sending this for us to check out. This is going to be a relatively quick overview, and I don't really have much experience with this knife because I'm trying to get my thoughts out as quickly as possible so that I can move this on to the next reviewer, as many reviewers as possible, hopefully before that 22-day deadline expires, just to get as many opinions out there as we can while there's still time for you guys to order the knife if you want. So today we're just going to go through the basics. We're going to go through my impression of the design and all the things that I think about when it comes to, just the things that I know about this knife just from the brief time that I've had with it. And I've got to tell you, I don't have any preconceived notions when it comes to Gareth Bull knives because I'm not a custom collector. I think I've handled his knives a couple times at Blade Show when like someone had them or something like that. But, I don't have really any experience, good or bad. So this is going to be really just an objective look at the design. And overall, my first impression is that it's a pretty darn well-made knife, and it is very attractive. So it does have some very good things going for it. The question that I have about it is really going to come down to value at the end. And so we will get back to that, but let's just go through some of the details and start with some size comparisons. And what we have is a pretty agreeable size and just overall kind of EDC capable knife. Our cutting edge is right around 3 inches. Overall length is 7 1/4, let's say. And so that's going to put it in the same kind of category as a lot of knives that you have. And it does have a gents feel to it. So that's sort of why I bring in the Leek, which is a pretty thin and streamlined knife. But you can see not all that different when it comes to cutting edge. Another knife that I was thinking about, not really gents focused, is the Mini Presidio 2. I think the best comparison that we will come back to a couple times in this video is the Hogue Deca. I mean, extremely similar when it comes to size and when we get to the weight as well. And then got to do the mini grip. So here's a clear scaled mini grip, sort of a rare one. This one is going to my buddy Rodney. So shout out to Rodney if you're watching this, which you probably aren't. But this one is headed your way soon, buddy. So we have that. And then last but not least, I'm under contract and obligated. Here's the Paramilitary 2. All right, now getting back to the Miura. So this is one of 2 different variations that are available. As you can see here, we have a black blade and the carbon fiber handle scale, black hardware, and then there is also a rosewood handle scale that has this goldish kind of hardware, but also the black blade. I really do like the blade design here. It is super attractive, very clean. It just has the Gareth Bull logo, and that is the only stamping on it. The grind is hollow, and so, I don't know, it just seems to lend itself to being like a gent kind of really sleek, streamlined kind of blade here. And yeah, I do like that. I think it'll be good for all your EDC tasks, but just because of the size and the sturdiness, which we'll get into in a second, it might be good for even more than that. The blade is S35VN. I've never had a single problem with the S35VN that I've gotten from We or any of the knives that they've produced for other companies. So yeah, I'm pretty much on board when it comes to that. This is a front flipper, and so that's why the jimping and the ramp is the way that it is. If I were looking at this from just a preferable ergonomic standpoint, I would sort of want the ramp to be moved up a little further with the jimping, but I mean that's just not realistic with the way that the knife has to work as far as the mechanism of the front flipper. But as it is, it's still very, very comfortable, which leads me to that carbon fiber. So I can't tell you anything about the rosewood or how that's going to feel in hand, slick, not slick, don't know. But the carbon fiber does have this gloss to it that just always leads me to believe that it's going to be slippery, and it's not. It's got a little bit of a smoothness to it that maybe you'd think you would slide around, but the jimping is extensive here, and just the basic lines of the knife, the ergos are solid to the point where like right now my hand is just pretty sweaty because it's Florida, and even inside, My hands are going to sweat, but I mean, this knife is not going anywhere. So it's pretty darn comfortable. You can see if you had like large hands, it might be a little bit more difficult, but even this pocket clip isn't really going to dig in and cause any kind of major hot spots. So just very good ergonomically. So very happy with that. As you move on back, I want to take a look at just the way the design works and how it flares out. And this is one of the things about the design that I just don't personally care for. It is just a little bit like fat at the back. And I mean, as a man, I don't really have a problem with that. but when it comes to a knife, maybe not like my favorite thing here. It just flares a little bit, and I don't know, I really see this blade as something that would be more fitting with a profile that was thinner. Let me try to get this in focus and show you guys a couple different examples to compare. I mean, this is just a little bit of a thick knife, and it's not the carbon fiber. And actually from here, you know, with this video quality or lack thereof, it's hard to distinguish where the liners and the carbon fiber like meet. You know, but if we take a look at it up close, and you can see right here actually, you know, you can see the carbon fiber is actually pretty thin. The liners are just super thick on this knife. I mean, they are very, very thick. So if you take a look at it, like here's the Mini Presidio 2, which, as we said earlier, is not a gent's knife by any stretch of the imagination. And even if the Miura is not, I mean, it's more of a gent's sort of style than the Presidio 2 is. And take a look at just like how much thicker the liners are on the Miura. You know, and it's a thicker knife overall. So I just think there's like this proportion with this knife that it just seems to me to be a little bit out of what the character could be and what I expected. So, I mean, is that a huge deal? I don't know. I don't think that it's that big of a deal. It's just something that, as far as like the design goes, it's not exactly what I would prefer. We take a look inside. These liners are super light. They are titanium. So, I mean, even though they're thick, they're not adding too much weight. So let's take a look at that real quick. 2.65 ounces. Just for comparison, actually, the reason why I said we'd bring that back, like almost literally exactly the same weight as the Hogue Deca. So if you've had the Hogue Deca in hand, seeing that the size is pretty much the same and the weight's pretty much the same, you can get a good idea of what the knife is going to feel like. That's for sure. One really cool thing, probably the coolest thing about the entire knife, is the pocket clip, believe it or not. All right, the pocket clip is fantastic, and I'm not one of those guys who hates on clips too much, and I don't rave about clips too much either. I'm just sort of go right down the middle. You know, if it works and it gets in and out of the pocket, it can be, you know, leaving a little bit of real estate. It can be super deep, whatever. It's really not that big of a deal either way to me. But this is a clip that you can see they put a little bit of time into making it like absolutely flush, and it's just super, super cool the way that it carries, but also just the way that it fits. I mean, you can see the different faces. I mean, it almost looks like it is coming right out of the carbon fiber. I'm gonna have to insert a video or a picture or something, but yeah, it's just, I mean, take a look at that. I mean, the faces of that, just to get it perfectly flush. You know, usually you'll just have a flat clip that'll go into a spot with a couple screws. This one, a whole lot more detail has been put into it. And it is excellent to carry. So that's awesome. It is not reversible, so we do have that sort of negative if you are a lefty, but if you're a lefty, you're used to it. All right, so those are the major aspects just visually, but let's talk about the opening action because that is a big part. Front flipper has all that jimping on it, which is really well done, not sharp, so it's going to be very comfortable. And
now for 30 seconds of unadulterated, uninterrupted front flipper action. All right.
it's great to open. Very, very nice and snappy. What I will say is that it is the only opening method that works. There's like, I've tried to pinch this knife out and pull it. It really isn't going to work that way. So the good news is, I mean, this thing isn't going anywhere, but that is really the only way to open it. The action is pretty darn good. It's satisfying, but the closing action is the best. That's the best part, maybe of the entire knife. Maybe not, but maybe it is. I mean, this knife, it drops, but then it also sort of feels almost like it's being propelled closed at a point, as though it's just getting like spring shut. It just feels so good to close this knife and to fiddle with it. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. Opening it lefty for some reason is not as easy for me, but it works. I mean, it works just fine. The lockup is very solid. So I mean, the execution of this knife is spot on. And again, so my biggest gripe, if that is even a gripe, is that, you know, the thickness of this is just a little bit weird. But if this were my knife, I would get over that very quickly. And even the fact that I don't love front flippers, like, I would get over that very quickly too, because it is just, it's pretty sweet. What I will say is, when I'm looking at the knife and looking at the value here, it's a big question mark. And I look at the carbon fiber, and even though, you know, it isn't slick and it is ergonomically good, it's not my favorite looking carbon fiber, to be honest. You know, I prefer something a little more matte, and I prefer, you know, just a different kind of style when it comes to CF. So while this is like a pretty neat scale, it's really not my preferred one. And I think I would prefer if they took the hardware from the rosewood one and put it over here and put the black hardware on the rosewood one. That'd be something that would make it a little bit more interesting for me. Now, that said, value, and who's this for? 100% this knife is for the Gareth Bull fan. I think that's the best way that you get value, is if you are someone who wanted a Gareth Bull custom, you really like the Miura design, that sort of thing, here's your chance to get a really, really well-made production version of it, right? That's what I think. But otherwise, I don't know, it's really hard. It's really, really hard to say that this is the knife that someone who isn't already interested in it should go out and get. You know, and I've been really focusing a lot lately on doing comparisons within companies, and Drop has always been a really, really great budget, not budget friendly, but just economically smart company to buy from. I feel like the value with their knives has been really, really excellent. And some of them, you know, are the next price tier up, like a higher level in the high 100s, low 200s sort of thing. And this one coming in at 225 is in that higher tier for them. But if you look at some of the knives that they have available at a lot cheaper of a price, they're just as good cutting tools, just as good knives for a really good deal. And the one that I'm thinking about specifically is the Dogtooth from Brad Zinker, which for $140 you can get the same steel, you can get carbon fiber, you can get, you know, the same sort of deal, same materials, same production from the same company. So a really good quality knife. So I think what you're really paying for is the name. You're paying for the design and the name. You know, in another comparison here, bringing back that Hogue Deca, maybe preferable materials if you're more of a steel person versus the handle material person, $140 for the Deca. You know, so just taking a look at it, you really have to decide what's drawing you to it and what isn't. But what I can say is it's a positive on all accounts, because, you know, there are a lot of great knives at Drop to purchase, so you can definitely go get one of those if you're not just the Gareth Bull fan who has to have this design. But if you are, and you are going to think about making that $225 investment, I'm pretty sure you'll be happy with the outcome here, because it is well made, very well executed, and pretty darn good looking. Hell of a clip. All right, guys, so that's my take on it. Any questions, comments, complaints, suggestions, let me know down below. Thanks very much for watching this one. I appreciate it. Take care and have a good one.